Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, this is a bit of a response video to a video done over at the Nerds of Wisdom. Now, Nerds of Wisdom is a channel that I myself am subscribed to and have been watching a lot lately, and they do a lot of really great deep analyses of game mechanics and rules and comparing them to other games, and I find them incredibly interesting, actually. So I'm going to put a link to Nerds of Wisdom as well as to the particular video that inspired this one down below. Now, this video was kind of inspired two-part. It was inspired by a video that they did about the game Ascension, and in it they were comparing the level of randomness in Ascension to the level of randomness in Dominion, two different deck building games, because Dominion has far less randomness in it, where Ascension has much more randomness, still not really more than half the game, mind you, but Ascension is more fun. And why is that? And they did a video about it, and they talked about it, and I decided to do this video on how the relationship between randomness and completely predictable strategy equals fun. How does that work? Well, because you know what, most people don't like games that are too random, and they also don't like. Most people don't like games that are totally predictable and strategic, because then they feel like a puzzle, games like chess. There are some people who love those games and they just play those games and don't play anything else, and they dedicate their life to being better at those games. But most people who play games don't enjoy especially playing against those people who dedicate their lives to being amazing at those games, because they feel like they have no chance, because those people have already solved the puzzle of that game. So I also am making this video as a returning of a favor for a shout out, because Dave over at Nerds of Wisdom did a video that was a response to my top 10 games that replace classic games that Lynn and Alex and I did. So this is a little shout out to Nerds of Wisdom. You guys should definitely go check them out. And well, let's get on with it. So their video got me thinking. And now again, I don't usually like games that have too much randomness in it. And I also don't usually like games that are zero randomness in them. I mean, to some extent. But I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, okay, on the randomness side, my usual rule is I don't enjoy a game if it's more than half random. But then I thought about zombie dice, and zombie dice is probably about 80 to 90% random, but I like it. And I was confused. I thought, well, why is that? Why do I like zombie dice when it's so random? And I think the answer is that it's so quick. It's over in 15 minutes. You sit down, you play, 15 minutes later, you're done. And then you can move on. And it's that games that are longer than that, when you start getting to like about half an hour and they're still 80 to 90% random, they've outstayed their welcome. The randomness is fun for a little amount of time. But once you get past that amount of time, it feels like it's gone on too long for what it is, which is a mostly random game. And on the other end of the spectrum, I generally don't like, there's a point where I generally don't like games that have zero randomness in them. So now chess is a good example. I will play chess with other people of similar skill level to me, but I generally don't like playing chess with people who are ranked chess players, because I am not a ranked chess player. I am okay at chess. If I play against somebody who is a ranked chess player, someone who has spent hours figuring out the best responses to different moves and plans 4 moves ahead, I feel like a worm in the talon of an eagle when I am playing against that person. There's no way in hell that I'm going to beat them. It's just not going to happen. And that's kind of infuriating and frustrating, and that's why I don't like playing those games with those people. However, I thought of the game Nine Men's Morris. And I am quite good at Nine Men's Morris, and there are few people that I play with that can match my strategy level of Nine Men's Morris, but I haven't spent, days and hours just figuring out the perfect responses to every move in Nine Men's Morris. And I think that's, again, because one, it's a much quicker game, and while the strategy can be complex, there's less moves available, and it's easier to see them and to figure them out, and it's much easier to get really good at a simpler game like Nine Men's Morris that is totally strategy. It's complete information, totally strategy, no randomness, just like chess, but it's easier to be good at it, and I do really like it. So what I'm trying to say is there's an interesting relationship here. Short, quick, easy games are okay to be almost completely strategy and almost completely random on both ends of the spectrum. Not completely random. A game that's totally random, you might as well just flip a coin no matter how long it is. But again, Zombie Dice is about 80 to 90% random. You have a little bit of decision if you want to roll again or if you want to stop and pass the dice along, and that's really it. But at that level, at a 15-minute game, that's fine. But then if you move forward to about a half an hour game, it's not fine anymore. At a half an hour game, I think I'm willing to put up with significantly less randomness. I think it drops down to about 60 to 65% randomness, and the game has to be really good, and the decisions you make have to be good for me to put up with it. And I'm not willing at half an hour, really, especially playing against, because chess can be a half-hour game. I'm willing to play chess, but only against someone I specifically know is in my own general skill level, not one of those people who I have no chance of beating. So there's a caveat there. Generally speaking, for a half an hour game, I'd rather at the most it be 80 to 90% just strategy without randomness, with very little randomness, so only 10 to 20% randomness. So the range that I'm willing to play in regard to strategy versus randomness has shrunk when you get to about half an hour. And what happens when you move up to an hour? Now you're committing an entire hour's length of time to the game. At about an hour, I think I'm willing to put up with up to 50% randomness and up to about 75% complete information. It shrinks down a bit. And anything from about an hour on, because now you're committing a sizable chunk. So if you get up to an hour and a half or 2 hours, 50% randomness stays the max as far as it goes. I don't want any more than 50% randomness on any game that's over an hour. And when it comes down to strategy elements, things that you can thoroughly plan out ahead of time before even playing the game, before even setting it up, things you just know, I'm willing to put up with up to about 75% strategy elements when you're going past an hour. So while it's not quite even, I mean, I especially in longer games, I want less randomness than I want the ability to thoroughly pre-plan out full-on strategy. Both of them shrink down the longer it goes, and I think there is that kind of happy medium, a happy place where you can have about 75% strategy to 25% random, or about 50-50, and if it's a good game, it'll hold up even if it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long. A good example of that is Twilight Imperium. Twilight Imperium can easily, with 3 to 4 players, can easily last 6 to 8 hours. There's a good amount of strategy of planning out, how am I going to expand my empire, what planets am I going to take, what moves am I going to make. But then when you do fights, there's randomness because there's a bunch of dice rolls. So it's not thoroughly strategy. Your opponent can come in with the best laid plans possible, and you could get lucky with the dice and manage to fight them off. So because of that, it keeps it interesting, it keeps it a little bit unpredictable, and it keeps it fun. And I think a game like Twilight Imperium has that perfect mix of strategy and randomness where it can literally go on for 8 hours and you don't mind. Now, I know that might sound a little weird to people who haven't played Twilight Imperium. They might think I'm crazy talking about a game that goes on for 8 hours like that. But whenever I have played Twilight Imperium, it's been one of those situations where when you're done, you're like, oh, how long did that take? That was quick, right? And someone says, no, it was 8 hours. And you're like, wow, didn't feel like 8 hours. So there's a happy mixture, a perfect mixture depending on the length, where the level of randomness and the level of information of pre-planning information that you can put towards strategy combine to make a very fun game where it's very fun at that length. And it changes based on how long the game is. So there you have it. That's my opinion on this. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this? Do you like more randomness in your games? Do you like more complete information in your games, more strategy in your games? Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know. And be sure to check out Nerds of Wisdom. And be sure to tell Dave, my brother from down under, that I said hi and that the captain sent you. And until next time, game on.